talk. It's time to rock. It's a special midday show here on the channel, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andrew. I'm here. If you've watched any of the shows that we've done previously in the past, Chris might be familiar with you. If you're not familiar with Chris, he's a very, very good friend of the channel. He's another fellow Kiwi. He's a rock and roller. He reminded me about a video he did for us. So I'm going to attach that video, ladies and gentlemen, to this video for people to go back and watch. But it's my pleasure to have here co-hosting us on the midweek special, Mr. Chris Hunter. How are you, brother?
Andrew, brother, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you. We had this planned a while ago, didn't we? With the guests that we've got, but we'll talk about why we couldn't do that show. But it's always a good thing to have any show postponed come forward. So we're looking forward to this, Chris.
With a very interesting story to why.
Yeah. Hey. Where did you go? What? Oh, did I do that?
I didn't do that.
I did that by accident. Hey, what have you been up to? Let the people know that are interested in what Chris has been doing.
I have been alive and well and buying guitars and selling guitars and fixing guitars and crying over guitars that won't fix. And amps that have dirty pots and tubes that amps you think are broken, and you take out the power tubes and you realize you just need to clean the sockets.
Oh my lord.
Stuff like that.
You got a nice little backdrop there. I like your green screen.
It's not real, people. None of this is real.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is real. It is real.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you. We've got a couple of rap bags already in the chat here hanging out. We've got the rock professor Simon Williams. Will Valera is in here. And John ZD351. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We've got 8 people watching. We like doing midweek specials, and it's always good when you get a couple of Kiwis on, Chris. Even better.
Yeah, and I just got the comments up so I can see the comments now too. Yay!
Awesome. Hey, brother, do you want to do bit of a quick kind of shout out to the guests that we've got and how you met them, and we'll drop them into the chat. What do you reckon?
Well, being Mr. Sort out all my guitar stuff, man, I'm also not adept in certain little parts, and so we're going back pre-COVID, maybe 4 years or some funk. You go back, and I lived in the main city in New Zealand is Auckland, and I live in the main city in New Zealand, which is Auckland, and I was living pretty central, and I found a guitar tech, Central Auckland, and this is our guest. And this is how I know the person, because I was going to see him to get stuff fixed on my guitars that I would cry a river and not fix myself, and take him to a lovely man and get him to do the bits and pieces that I didn't want to do. And that's how I met this lovely man, who was an awesome fellow, who you go into his workshop, and it was almost, he didn't have a lab coat on, but he should have had a white lab coat on, because it was one of those places you walk in. As soon as you went in this place, this beautiful dog that was about up to your belly button would come around the corner, really friendly, and would sniff your hand. Wow. You'd see a blueprint on the wall for a Les Paul, the blueprints for the patents, and then you'd smell the wood. You'd smell wood, and you go around the corner, and there'd be all these guitars, and that could be anything. It could be anything. It could be a Mossrite, could be a Gibson, could be a Fender. You'd just see different guitars. And I'd always be saying to him, "Oh, what's in that case there?" "That's a Kramer." "Oh, that's pretty cool." "Oh, wow. Is that a Nolan era Les Paul?" And then you go in the corner, and there'd be a proper workshop, like proper, legit, a wall full of like magnets and wires. There'd be like bits of wood. There'd be acoustic guitar bodies that were half built and half not built, and some getting done. And you'd smell the wood. And I was lucky enough to be able to grace his presence for more than 10 minutes at a time and hang out in his workshop humbly.
Awesome.
Maybe
Awesome.
half an hour or so when I was getting something done. And he's a lovely man, and he's well known by a lot of Kiwis now he's since, thanks to COVID, moved into the boutique world of guitar pickups and makes a very nice array of guitar pickups.
Awesome.
Very boutique.
Should we get him in the
very
chat?
nice.
Should we get him in?
You guys want to get him in? You want this guy to stop talking?
No, let's get him in. Let's get him in. Mr. Glyn, how are you, brother?
Hello? Hello?
Mr. Glyn.
Oh.
How are you, Glyn?
Hello? Can you hear me up there, Bowie?
That's okay. He's going to fix up his audio, guys, ladies and gentlemen. While he's doing that, I'll remind you what we're going to do here on this video. We'll attach all of Glyn's social media accounts to this video. So if Glyn, can you hear us, Glyn? Maybe you need to pop out and come back in. Yeah, there's nothing I can do here on this side, mate. You might have to pop out and come back in.
How do we hand signal? Pop out the house, come back in the house.
Okay.
Right.
I'll boot him out.
While we are here. Hi, Simon. Hi, John.
Got ya.
Hey!
Okay. All right. We pushed the right buttons. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you?
Well, you do. You pull the cable out and you put the cable back in.
Oh, so that actually works. People get paid $100,000 a year just to give that advice.
There, you got it for free from me. There you go.
You're a scholar and a gentleman.
Hey, good to see you guys. Thank you very much for inviting me on, and really good to see Chris, because we've known each other. I was just thinking then, we've probably known each other about 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, time.
Yeah, because I had that workshop in the city for 12 and a half years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I bet you I've got a receipt around here somewhere for something you did. If I pulled a case out, I'll probably find something somewhere.
Yeah. So yeah, good to see you, mate. It's been a couple of years. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, so you've since then. Tell us a little bit what happened since. I mean, we were able to luckily hear stuff out of my mouth saying that you were teching in the city and doing business in the city, and something happened through COVID.
Well, I'd actually on the slide been planning to make pickups for a living for quite some time. So since 2012, I'd been kind of making this range of pickups, or developing it anyway, and putting pickups in the hands of professional players so they could road test them. And it's quite a long process, because I'm very, very fussy. And so, yeah, since 2012, I was working on that. And then when COVID happened, it's like, oh, this is probably my chance right now to just do it, to stop repairing guitars. And I've been repairing guitars for 25 years.
Wow.
Well, didn't you have a history also behind, am I correct that you were living in the UK teaching building guitars at one point?
Well, I started off being the kid in the guitar shop who thinks he knows what he's doing. The guy we've all met him. Well, that was me when I was about 17, and then I sort of decided, after quite a long time and a bit of traveling around, decided I wanted to take that seriously.
Sure.
So I went to college in the north of England in Leeds and studied guitar making and repair there, and then I finished that course after 2 years and was qualified. Then I ended up starting up a little wee guitar shop, which was
in Leeds.
Yeah, in Leeds, buying and selling secondhand and repairing stuff. And then I ended up going back to the college part-time to teach guitar making and repair there.
Can I ask what year this was about?
That would have been 95, 96, I think I was in college.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I had that guitar shop right through till about 2003.
Right.
But yeah, so I taught a few guys, and some of them have done really well, actually, much better than me. So I did that. And that's when I started really playing with pickups. I wound my first pickup in college, and then I just really liked them.
Yeah.
And was repairing a lot of, because at the time, if you think of the mid-90s, late 70s, mid-70s gear was still really cheap and not considered particularly good or vintage. So there were a lot of old Fender pickups. You could rewind, people would chuck them out. It wasn't a particularly big deal. So I worked a lot on that, on 70s and 60s pickups.
Wow.
And figuring out why they work. And
so many questions. We'll get to it
Go
later.
on.
So many...
Oh, okay.
No, my brain's just going, so you were looking at the different kind of wax potting and saying, well, these ones, the wax potting's degraded in this, and it's helping to open up the eeriness in this pickup. And I'll get us off topic with all these geek questions if we're not careful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of parameters. It looks like there's just wire and that's it, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. Anyway, so did that. Let me think. Where are we? Late 90s. So I had that shop till about 2003 when I just I kind of had enough.
Yeah.
And I sold up and spent 2 years busking around Europe playing the musical saw. Saw. Yeah, I played the saw.
What?
Yeah, myself and an accordion player. We used to do like Viennese waltzes and stuff like that, with all the melody on the saw. And then after a couple of years, I decided, well, what do I want to do? And I decided to go to New Zealand.
What brought you to New Zealand initially?
Is there anywhere better?
Well, if you hadn't been here before, it's like, why not Barcelona or why not Holland?
I'd done a big OE, and I'd spent some time in Australia and New Zealand and the US and Canada and lots of Europe. And really, if you sit down and think, where in the world do I want to live? There you go. It's top of the list. So, and interestingly, I landed in New Zealand in 2005, and I remember walking out of the airport and thinking, I think I've always been a Kiwi.
Wow.
Because, yeah, I was like the only guy in Leeds who'd wear jandals and shorts, So, yeah, it was immediately home.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's a common trait, isn't it? The jandals thing, especially during summer. I get a bit suspicious if guys are wearing jandals during winter, But Glyn, I think it's fascinating that you picked New Zealand. And there's a couple of questions that I want to chuck at you. So you've spent time in Europe. You're on the arse end of the world, and you make pickups. So how has that experience of being in Europe and listening to rock and roll music and all this great music over the years, and then you're here, and has that distance given you an opportunity for you to hear something or think about your design of your pickups differently because you are here because of the locality? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I don't think geography really matters anymore, because post-internet world, it doesn't really matter where you are.
Okay.
It used to. I mean, when I started off, buying guitar parts you couldn't get online and buy volume pots or anything, so you'd get the Stu Mac catalog, and you'd tear the back page out, fill the form in, and send an international bank order to them. And months later, you get your stuff. By which time you realize you wanted something different. But yeah, so yeah, it's very different. But really, I mean, music and access to everything is the same no matter where you are, just about.
I don't know if I'm cheeky by by tainting it a bit by wanting to take you back to Leeds and the kind of music you liked growing up and the stuff you saw.
Right, I started playing guitar because of Malcolm Young.
Wow.
And I can remember the exact moment. My mate who's called Mal, lent me his brother's copy of High Voltage.
It's my favorite album by them.
And yeah, I mean, you listen to just that the intro, Long Way to the Top, that guitar sound. And I would say for me, the intro to Jailbreak, which is, I know, not on that album, but the intro to Jailbreak is that's the guitar sound for me.
Okay, yeah.
Wow.
You know it? There's that.
Yeah.
And that got me playing guitar. So
wow.
Yeah. So the money that I've been putting aside for a motorbike went on a guitar that weekend.
What was your first guitar?
Yeah. It was a Bitzer that somebody else had put together, and it was horrible.
Cool.
But if you can get through that, you're a player for life, aren't you? Yeah. So there was so it was that. So there's a lot of rock and stuff, but then I got really into Zappa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if that does you any good at all, to be honest. But
I think it does.
I'm not sure. but yeah. So, and then lots of rock, it's quite diverse from there on, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously,
yeah.
I played the saw, but I also played the theremin and harmonica and a few other things. So you end up listening to a lot of different kinds of music.
Have you had your nights going a little bit too crazy on a whole lot of love with your theremin?
No, I'm very much into actually using it as an instrument.
Oh, like Star Trek.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
I love the theremin. It's an amazing instrument.
It really is. I actually got to play with the Auckland Philharmonic once, was about 10 years ago.
That's awesome.
On the theremin, which is really cool. Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. Is there any footage of that?
No, it was for a silent movie. It was in the Civic Theatre, and it was the music for a silent movie as part of the film festival.
Do you remember what the silent film was?
I can't remember what it was called. I know Neil Brand wrote the score, like a modern score for it. It was a 1928 black and white, bit of a Scooby-Doo sort of plot. People trapped in a house, and somebody got murdered, and something like that.
It was the Peter Jackson, The Frighteners. Peter Jackson. No. It
was from 1928. The actual movie was. Was from 1928. Yeah, so it's all silent movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say a quick shout out to a couple of people that have joined us in the chat, guys. We've got one of the co-hosts of the channel in the chat all the way from Australia saying hi to you, Glyn. Brad Cook, and also Quentin James from the States is in here saying hi. So we welcome you guys joining us. If you guys have any questions regarding any of the topics that Glyn's going to talk about, fire them through into the chat and we'll get a chance, I'm sure, to ask him those questions. Sorry for interrupting, guys.
Quentin's in Kentucky and it's 4 a.m. in the morning and he's watching this.
Well, he doesn't sleep.
That's amazing, Quentin. That's legendary. Unless you're getting up for work or you're at work and you want to go home. So that was one of my questions I was going to ask and get to is like, because we've all got our favorite couple of pickups and tones we like. And I was going to ask you what was the music that got you into listening to the sound of whatever it is that you like the sound of, you know. We all hear something, music on an album, and it grabs us, you know, it can be anything, and it grabs us, and that tone as guitar players makes us go, oh, that's me, I want this, I want to make this tone, you know. And so I was going to ask you that question. So one of my side ones I was going to ask, the Malcolm Young, which is a Gretsch, I'm pretty sure, you know, Gretsch guitar, is it's a bit cheeky because you make pickups, but do you have a favorite, a classic known pickup in the world? Like, do you have a couple of things that you just love? Like
they're all good for different things.
Yeah.
I think my heart is belongs to Telecasters. But no, they're all good for different stuff. You know, that's why we need so many guitars. You know, it's essential having at least half a dozen, because, you know, if you want, yeah, you go. I know you've got a lot of them. Yeah.
I've got about double that in the closet.
yeah, me too. I got it. Yeah, I mean, I call it a work expense and pretend they're test guitars, but yeah.
I've got a very loving girlfriend.
but
anyway,
but like, if you want that a telly sound, you've got to have a telly, and if you want to sound like a Les Paul, you've got to have a Les Paul, and they're both great sounds. So there's no, I don't have a favorite one,
right.
But I have a favorite one for certain jobs. Like I play in a rock covers band, and the pickups I use for that, which I just love playing live with them, I wouldn't use for a lot of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what are those pickups?
Those are my Cloud 9 pickups, and I've
why?
been through quite a few. I mean, like before that, I playing a JB and a Gibson 498, and that sort of ilk of.
They're my two favorite. Sorry, last time I cut in, they're my two favorite. I'm a rock dude, and they're my two favorite pickups.
Yeah. You know, you're a rock dude. You wouldn't. Yeah. Sorry, you sit there with Marshalls around you and stuff.
This is a blue screen, dude. Anyway, back to you.
yeah. So that was what I want. You know, I like that sort of powerful sample. I quite like a bit of mid. And I found the JB was a bit harsh on the top and didn't have enough mid pushing, because I think that's the voice of guitar, is the mid.
Yeah, totally.
So that's,
we forget.
Yeah.
We forget in our immaturity. We just want all this lovely crisp top end and a big fat juicy bottom, and we forget that we live in the mid.
Yeah, and I mean, big fat juicy bottom it's a beautiful phrase to conjure with, of course. But really, if you're playing live and there's more than one guitar player, you don't want too much of that. It's, you know, you need to get your bottom out because otherwise the bass guitar gets swamped and you get lost, and it's quite different live than anything else. So, and I think the bottom end needs to be, and it's interesting that the bottom end is very different with different kinds of pickup. Like a PAF is a very different bottom than like the 7-string that I make.
Right.
The 7-string's all about it being very tight, very immediate, rather than being like with a PAF, you want the bass to come in to be a little bit slow and very clear and not sounding like hip hop or anything. It hasn't got that punchy bottom. It needs to have a wallow in it a little bit. Whereas for a 7-string, that's just mush.
I know it's early days, but I'm loving this. I'm so glad I'm here.
Me too.
But I was going to ask you that later on down the thing, because I think I read something that you did, that you're doing a 7-string and you wanted to make sure, obviously, that bottom end was the clarification was there, but was tight and not woofing out.
Yeah. Well, the 7-string was making that was because I always have a test pilot. So every model of pickup I have, there's been a professional player who's been the test pilot for it. And I found I only need to use one, because if you have 3 people, you end up with never getting a conclusion. So, so there's a guy who I knew in the UK called Graham Young, who is he's got a background in stuff like Van Halen, but he's much more a fusion player now, and a very, very seriously advanced player. You'll see him on the website for the Attitude 7-string. He's the guy with the beard. So I thought, Graham's the perfect test pilot. So I had a chat with him. He was up for it. So I sent him a pickup. So he's in the UK. So I'd send him a pickup, and then I'd get it back 6 weeks later with some notes. Now I change it. And this went back and forth quite a few times. And we were just about there. And then COVID happened.
what magnets in it?
Alnico 5.
Oh, yeah.
Which for that works really well. I mean, he didn't want it to be as, because if it was extreme metal, then we'd go ceramic. You know,
Yeah, right.
But he still wants some warmth and some gosh, language is hard, isn't it, when you describe sound? But yeah, he wanted some warmth and some organicness, and didn't want it to sound too brittle. So yeah, we went for A5 on that. But then COVID happened, and if you remember, the postal system just stopped. And I went, oh, okay, so this pickup's just stopped. Oh, that's, the world will come back. And then I got contacted by a guy down in Papamoa, I think he is, Gabe Doverston, saying, do you make a 7-string pickup? Do you know Gabe? Oh, this is the way he looks looking. And I went, I thought I'll send him this one, because I'd checked out his YouTube, and he's pretty good, I thought I'll send him this and see what he thinks. And he loved it, and he did a demo for it. And I thought, oh, well, we're there then.
Wow.
So yeah. So we were almost there anyway. And then when Gabe went, actually, yeah, we are there. Well, then I've gone, yeah, that's fine.
So, so for your guy in the UK, for the guy in Papamoa who got a hold of you, where was the guy in the UK? Was he like, I'm almost there, let me just bubble on it a little bit? And when the Papamoa guy jumped in?
Yeah, we were within, almost nothing of. I mean, I was contemplating sending him, when he returned to pick up, sending him the same one back, telling him I'd done something, because you can do that, because I know it sounds like I'm being devious, but that's actually a really good test.
Okay.
Right.
To see if you're just mucking about, Anyway, I didn't do that, Graham, honest. Yeah, so that's how that one came about. And there's a 6-string version of that as well, but that was all about the bottom end, that one.
So the 6-string is the same voicing and it lives in the same territory?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
What was your first foray into your own pickup design? What kind of pickup was that?
Well, really Strats. I've been mucking with Strats a lot, forever, really. Because especially when you get lots of old dead Fender pickups like I had in the 90s, then you just go, well, what happened? Because there was no information on winding pickups.
Right.
You couldn't go. Pre-internet, before the internet really got going, there really wasn't information. Okay. So I had heard from the guy that taught me to repair guitars that roughly how many turns an old Fender had and an old Gibson had. And then when you start out, you go, how much wire can I get on this? And then you're like, why does it sound poo? And then and that's how you learn.
It's like, 4 billion wires. Yeah. Put in your guitar.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you just fill it up. You fill it as much as you can, and then go, yeah. Oh, it sounds a bit woolly. I wonder why. And that's how you learn. And yeah, there's all sorts of stuff that you pick up. Yeah.
Oh, my cheeks hurt. That's really funny.
How important is it, Glyn, to be a guitar player or a musician when it comes to fixing, making, designing, building pickups and guitars? Now, the reason why I ask you that is there's a local guy here who manufactures acoustic guitars, and I was stunned to find out that he couldn't play a chord. I won't mention his name because he's a local guy, but it made no sense to me that you could make a guitar and sell it for a lot of money, and you can't play it. I just, am I missing something, Glyn and Chris?
Leo Fender, mind. Leo Fender couldn't play.
Yeah.
True.
But he did surround himself with people who could play.
Sure.
Yeah. It's from my perspective as someone who's played since they were a kid. I'm probably the wrong person to answer. What do you think, Chris?
I think you smacked it on the head when you said Leo Fender. You know, like Leo, God, if you went to design school and you went back to his designs from the 50s, he's put some ingenious stuff in there, and it works. Like you talked about Telecasters. Most people pick a Telecaster up and go, this is magical. And it's like, you don't have to change anything. You know, awesome Fenders everywhere, but Telecasters are magical, right? And that's just like from a broadcaster, and it's him going, well, like, how can I make this? How can I, if I make the neck bolt on, we can swap necks out and make it easier for the customer, and it does work with the tone. How's it, you know? And what he was radio, right? And amps originally.
Well, he was an accountant originally.
Was he?
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, Leo Fender. I mean, I admire him hugely, but Leo Fender was a one-eyed accountant who couldn't play guitar.
Right.
But so, and that which is a huge thing for anyone who's trying to work out how to make stuff, guitars like that, and they're in their shed or garage or anything. That's what Leo did. You know, he figured it out. He figured out how radios worked and fixed radios and made amplifiers.
So you being a guitar player, it doesn't matter with your product. The fact that you'd still manufacture the same product, even if you couldn't be a guitar, even if you weren't a guitar player.
I have no idea how I would know if I was making anything that was any good.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be able to test it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you can get other people to do that, like Leo did. I suppose it's a lot quicker if you can just plug it in and go, oh no, that's rubbish. And then when you start getting close, then you can consult other people for another opinion.
Because the Strat was, I don't know what the Tele was, but I know the Strat was mainly a country player, right? Apparently, is this right? The Strat was apparently, was it mainly a country player saying, I want the volume knob here, give me a belly cut, kind of. Was it a country guy test driving it?
There were a lot of guys.
Okay.
I think it was Bill Carson. It might be the guy you're thinking of. But no, there was a lot of people involved in that, and a lot of advice, and a lot of, you know, it was designed by committee in a way. I mean, I'm not really a huge Strat fan myself, but
but like what you like.
Yeah. It's one of these things that, for me, that other people sound really good on Strats.
But you said you spent a lot of time on Strat pickups.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to get because I'm trying to get them to do what I want them to do.
Okay.
Right. Which was not what a Tele does, right? Because a Tele single coil is different from a Strat single coil.
Yeah. I mean, the main difference is the bridge pickup, and the difference with that is it's got a metal plate underneath, but also that it sits in the metal bridge. And the neck's quite different to a Strat neck pickup. It's different gauge wire. Yeah. But I think for me, the sound of a Telecaster bridge pickup is the sound of rock and roll. You know, there's a little bit of anger in that. And I think Strats are just a little bit too sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
What a beautiful comment.
Yeah.
But you can.
I think one of the key things for me, being a guitar player and a musician, you know, we look at Eddie Van Halen as an example, as a classic example of a guy that tinkered with guitar pickups and guitars at an early age, Glyn and Chris, and he was always searching for something in his ear, in his mind, always.
For his whole life.
Always searching for this tone. And you know, I think, Glyn, the fact that he was a player like yourself, you know, a guitar player with that experience and being able to translate that ability that you have as a guitar player or a musician into your product, I think is always going to be appealing, because people are going to trust the fact that you do have some kind of relationship with your product. You know, Leo Fender, I think you're right. Leo Fender was great as far as the designer goes, but he was surrounded at an early age by people who were great musicians. But I think in your case, the fact that you're a musician and a guitar player translates into your product. If you go and have a look at Glyn's website, and we'll show his website before we go, ladies and gentlemen, it's a fantastic website. And some of the guys that are talking about your product, it's fantastic, Glyn.
Oh, cool. Yeah, cheers. Yeah, and you know, it's funny, I was just thinking there when you were talking about Eddie Van Halen, because, you know, there's all the mystery of what pickups he used at different times. But it seems to be he used lots of different pickups, which are quite different. You know, I was looking at a thing today and they were saying that, you know, the first album was anything, he was using an Ibanez Destroyer with like the Super 70 pickups. And then and then for the stuff with the trem, it was a, you know, like the Super Strat, but with probably a PAF.
Yeah, from that Gibson.
Now they're quite different pickups. And then later on, when with the PV ones, those pickups are very different again, completely different gauge wire and all that. But he always sounded like himself.
Have you looked into those? Have you pulled apart one of the PV Van Halen pickups yourself ever?
No, I haven't. I usually get to do that when people send me broken ones, you know, to fix. And, but that's the intro. And obviously, this by saying this won't sell any pickups for me. But it's almost like that didn't really matter, you know, because he actually sounded like himself always, regardless of what he was playing.
It's that classic, right? It's all in your hands, you know, and there's all those comments of like, I think what's the famous one of Ted Nugent using Eddie's rig once and getting his sound and then looking at Eddie and going, where's your magic little box? Where's your little thing you use? You know, and he's like, it's called a cable. Yeah. You know?
You know, I took some pedals around. There's a pedal maker in Nelson called Big Noise Amplification, and he makes great pedals. And he wanted a mate of mine to try some of his pedals out. A guy called Warren Mendonca, known as Black Strat Blues. Well, with amazing player, great albums. And I took these couple of pedals around just as a favor. There you go, Warren. You know, and I to see what he thought of them. And I asked him about a week later. I said, "What do you think of them?" And he says, "They just sound like me."
Right.
And of course, no matter what he plugs into, it's going to sound like him. So,
do you have with all the pickups you make? Do you have? Is there a tricky one? I like P90s or something. Is there a certain kind of pickup that's just a bit more of a pain in the bee compared to some other ones to put together?
Not really. No, they've all got their own little challenges. Yeah, I mean, some like the Filtertron took a while to get together because like I'm having magnets made for that.
And so describe to us the Filtertron.
Well, I call it the Tron.
Sure. Yeah.
Which obviously is really funny if you're a Kiwi, but no one else in the world's going to get that, and I quite like that. So it's a Filtertron's quite a different pickup because it's a big fat magnet with very little coil strength.
Okay.
Go
on. I'm just pointing to a Gretsch.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were putting your hand up to ask a question.
Yeah.
So it's a fat magnet with a weak coil, whereas a PAF in comparison has got quite a lot of coil strength and literally half the size of magnet.
Does that make the Tron quite eerie?
It makes it immediate. That immediate clank, back to Malcolm Young. That's what that is. It's that. Because there's a stronger magnetic field, so as soon as that string moves, these electrons are off. You know, so it's quite different for that, and that gives it that aggressive clank on the sort of front end of the note. Because really, with any sound, it's the first few milliseconds that are the whole character. You know, if you do your violining thing, and you can do a violining thing on a Telecaster or a Les Paul, and that the sustained note is very, very hard to distinguish. But it's that initial attack that's all the personality. So the Filtertron, so I've got the magnets made for that.
What?
Because because I'm a bit fussy about that, because that's the thing with the Filtertron. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Please keep going. This is really interesting.
Yeah, because it's literally twice the thickness of a PAF magnet.
What's the magnet? What kind of magnet do you use?
That's an Alnico 5 in the Filtertron, but in the PAF, so I use Alnico 2.
Sure.
Yeah, and and with a lot of my humbuckers, the coils are asymmetric.
Yeah.
Because if you think of any coil is going to have a resonant peak, and that resonant peak in the if you give the coils 2 different resonant peaks in the mid range, then it broadens the mid range a little bit, and also gives it a bit more clarity. So it's, like I said earlier, the mid range is really important for the personality of a pickup. So that's they're not all like that. I don't make them all asymmetric, but with the PAF definitely. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's brilliant. Have you had any good feedback on your Tron pickups where people have put them into Gretsch guitars?
Yeah, but
feedback?
What surprised me with them is most people are putting them into Telecaster Cabrinitas.
Oh, really?
Okay.
And I didn't see it coming. Like I sent some off to Brett Kingman in Melbourne,
Yes.
the demo guy. I sent some off to him for a demo.
Yes.
And he went, "Oh, the spacing's a bit." I assumed he put them in a Gretsch, but the spacing was, he goes, "Our spacing's a bit narrow for the Cabrinita bridge." It's like, oh, okay. So now I do them with a 52mm bridge spacing for the Cabrinita people. So I sent him one of those. He's done the demos for that. In fact, I asked him to do 1 demo, and he's done 4. So he must like them. So that seems to be what people are using them for. And also as a neck pickup, it's quite popular now to have a Filtertron as like a tele neck pickup.
Do you make it as a bridge and a neck option?
Oh yeah. All the pickups are. I mean, traditionally, like a PAF, traditionally they were the same, ish. So they try to make them the same, But no, because there's so much less string energy at the bridge. Because the string isn't deflecting as much as it is at the neck end, that you just need you need a bit more, and you want to do other stuff with it. So they're not. I don't do the vintage correct to every detail thing. I think that's a bit silly.
Well, can you bring that back up? That was just down there. Can we ask him that question?
Sorry, I didn't see that. I was talking.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's just about your website there. Can people see and hear your pickups on the tube? So we'll attach all the social media links, and if you go to, it's pretty here. Hold on, if we go here to share screen, there's Glyn's. That's his website there.
Right on. Maybe we could.
Yeah.
Can we leave this up while we talk about your different stuff, or are we going to be here to 11?
I don't mind.
Yeah, you need it.
Yeah. So you can just click on
the
those.
Tron. So back down to the Tron. So you picked. That's quite a beautiful style cover, or whatever you call it. On it. Can you scroll back down to the humbuckers, Mr. Edmund? It's gone now, dude.
Sorry. I thought you guys were talking about. Sorry.
I get the covers engraved. There's a guy in Hamilton, and they engrave trophies.
Right.
And he engraves the MrGlyn on there. And when I was first talked to him about whether he could do it, we had a little video chat, and he's sitting there in his office in his little sort of factory and stuff, and behind him, there's a Strat, a telly, an orange amp, and I think it was a Marshall, like in his office.
Way.
Right, yeah, you're the guy to do the engraving.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
there's loads of those guys around, and they're great.
So was that Andrew? Were you in charge of that magic there? Can you pull back up the his page of the pickups?
Yeah, hold on. So Will's asking a question. Do you ship to the United States of America?
I do ship to there. I use DHL. So usually it's pretty quick, actually. I sent some stuff to a guy in Mississippi not so long ago, and it was 5 days, which I was quite amazed at.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and the shipping costs are on the website. I've got a feeling it's 35 Kiwi dollars I charge. I actually subsidize it a little bit to the US because I want to sell stuff over there.
But currency wise, that's about $12 if you live in New Zealand.
Yeah. It's on the shipping page. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. No, I ship. I definitely ship to the US. Yeah.
So if you have a look here, ladies and gentlemen, so these, you know, it's a well-designed website. Everything up there. There's your shipping rates that you're talking about.
Oh, there goes the map. There you go.
Hey.
Yeah. What's the green one? 30 bucks.
And I have to tell you, shipping from New Zealand to the United States, $35 is a deal, because if you ship anything from the United States to New Zealand, you're paying twice, maybe 3 times that price.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Yeah, they kill us. Yeah, if you live in New Zealand, if you're from America, if you're a Kiwi and you're going to buy something from America, you get killed. You pay more than the thing sometimes.
And there's the testimonials there. So these are all the people that Glyn's talking about. But more importantly, too, I suppose, are the videos. That,
if you click on, that's a shop. But if on the front page you click on the picture of the pickups, then it goes to the description. But there's also all the videos. They just link them to YouTube. They're all on there. And there's more videos all the time.
Yeah.
So tell us. I want to go through them, but I don't know if that's
no, go on.
If we want to. So like, so you saw the Tron. That's got a what do you call that kind of covering on that kind of a humbucker?
Well, I mean, it's a filter Tron cover. I mean, the it's actually slightly smaller than a Gibson humbucker, so it's not a direct pop it straight in. There are slightly different ones. Yeah, it's a slightly different size because Gretsch were, there was no standardization. Gretsch and Gibson were both invented the thing at the same time, so the humbucking pickup.
Right. So is the Tron more in line with the Gretsch size?
Yeah, it's based on a couple of early '60s Filtertron pickups that I had in for repair. But I've kind of changed it a little bit, and I think it's because I'm a little bit, as I mentioned before, I'm a little bit on the Malcolm Young side of things. So there's a little bit more, not a massive amount. It's got the same character, but it's a little bit more aggression and a little bit more clank to it, a little bit fuller. Because I kind of made it how I want a Filtertron to be like.
Nice.
So.
Is there an easy way for you to describe how you were able to make those changes to make it more? Is that just magnets and winding, or is there more magic to it?
I mean, yeah, magnets and winding. I mean, that's all there is to pickups. But unfortunately, both those factors have quite a other few things involved. The right magnet makes a big difference, especially to a Filtertron. But also mucking about with the asymmetry of the coils. And if you go a bit too far, like if you wind a bit too much, you end up with a bit too much bottom end, and that can often only become evident when you play it loud next to a drummer, because everything gets tested properly. So you play it in the house and you go, it's lovely bottom end, and then you go out to your drummer and you go, wait a minute, I'm just blotting out the bass player here. So it's got to be tame, but it's got to be there and clear. So that's where there's a lot of experimenting. You don't just go like adding more windings. It's not just turning the volume up. It's shifting the EQ to the bass side and adding more bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, so it makes it a little bit more complicated. And then there's how you put the wire on. kind of scatter winding thing that people talk about. That makes a huge difference. If you put wire on very neatly and you put one wind on right tight up next to the one before, then you get a very muffled pickup.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a thing called leakage capacitance, which is any bit of wire with current going through it. It's got a field of capacitance around it, and that interferes with the wire next to it. And then, of course, if you're multiplying that by 10,000 turns, it becomes significant. So that's another thing. And then the tension of the wire, the insulation makes a difference, because different insulations have a different thickness. So then you're having the wire closer or further away from its neighbor. So there's all those things, the geometry of the coil. Like if you have the coil, if you have a Strat is a narrow high coil and a P90 is a short wide coil. So with the P90, more of the winding is further away from the magnet, which gives you less top end, a sort of fatter bottom end.
Right.
So that's that coil geometry, and then there's a magnetic geometry. So you've got stuff like with a Fender, the pole pieces are magnets, so you've got the magnet sitting inside the coil. Whereas with the Gibson, you've got, well, a humbucker, you've got the magnet underneath, so the magnet itself is outside the coil, and that makes quite a difference to the sound of them. Magnetic strength, size of the magnet. So, and of course, you alter one thing and everything else goes off. So it's fun, eh?
How many different pickups do you have in your catalog at the moment?
10-ish.
Yeah.
With, I mean, there's neck and bridge more. It's funny because let's say the Integrity, which is my PAF type pickup, you've got an option at the checkout of having it underwound by 5%, overwound by 5%, or overwound by 10%. Now, I know a lot of companies would name those as 4 different pickups. Whereas I think it's, I like to keep it simple for people.
That's an awesome service you do. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Like Seymour Duncan have got 1,200 pickups in their range. Yeah. So
what? How many?
Yeah.
What?
1,200. Yeah. So off you go to your guitar shop. I want a Seymour Duncan humbucker. I mean, so by the time you've decided, you're quite a bit older, and then you find no one's got them in stock. So it's like, so I just try and keep it like that's the PAF type pickup. We can tweak those windings, and it's still really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't do that with all pickups because, for instance, the Cloud 9, the more powerful humbucker, doesn't like that. It's got a sweet spot. You don't want to put 10% more windings on because it's just too boomy. So there's a couple of the pickups that I'll do that, but not certainly not all of them.
Right. So for your for that one, you pretty much found that pickup to work in that certain way, and that's the way that messing with the windings is just messing with the whole program.
It's okay, and to be honest, old Gibsons are like that. They vary hugely.
Okay.
They weren't necessarily counting every turn, and you quite often can't get across PAFs that measure under or over.
Would you know what kind of era we're talking about this? Would this like through the Norland era and into the 80s or the 90s, or do you know?
50s. No, I'm talking 50s, like the original PAFs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's. So go on.
I was going to say, have you been lucky enough to look inside a few of the ones from the 50s?
Oh yeah. No, because I over the years I've had them in for repair.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no surprises because we all know them so well. But no, it's always really good to have a nose inside one.
Can we just take a pause and a side note here. And I don't know if you can tell me the story, or if I'm going to tell you half the story beforehand. I remember you had a Gibson Les Paul that you had re-pieced together. Are you able to tell us the story? Because I always found that was amazing. I asked you about it, and you said how you came to acquire it.
Yeah, having when I had a repair workshop, guitars find me, like they just walk in, and this one walked in a supermarket bag, like a plastic bag, a Les Paul. It had the neck was out, the body, the head was off, bits of the fingerboard were missing, anything plastic was smashed, the body was split, and yeah, it had been in a rather ugly fight, and the owner of it didn't really want it anymore, just wanted me to patch it up to sell on.
Was it a husband and wife, like a part of a divorce type, we're leaving each other type fight?
It was that sort of thing, and I don't really want to.
Fair enough.
Yeah, tell you that story in public. But yeah, so I stuck it back together, and it's not worth much, but it's actually a really good Les Paul. So there's no point in me. Yeah, there's no point in me ever selling it because it's not worth much, and I've got a Les Paul, so yay.
Oh, I thought that story was just awesome. Was that? I know you don't want to get into it, but I swear you said it was like the wife or something came in and said you can have this if you want it.
Well, I bought it. I bought it off her. I heard myself making her an offer.
Okay. Right.
But that's how. I mean, I've got a. I'll show you.
We like guitars.
Just because it's so beautiful. I know it's not even electric.
Yeah.
Wow.
Looks awesome.
So that's
a Gibson.
It's a 1936 L30.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that walked in the workshop one day, and the guy found it in a landfill.
No way.
I know. The back was all smashed, and he found most of the pieces, but not all of them. And there's lots of splits in the top. I've done nothing to make it look less ugly. You see all the splits and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, and I said, do you know what it is? And he goes, oh,
Can
yeah.
you hold it up again, please, Glenn?
Can you see that?
Yeah.
So he knew what it was.
Show us the back and the headstock.
Well, the back, that's the headstock, the back of the headstock.
Beautiful.
And there's that old Gibson logo.
Wow.
Now, the back I repaired, and the piece that was missing, because these are made of maple back and sides. Okay. The piece that was missing, I was like, try and make it look like that never happened. And I decided not to. I decided that it was part of its history was being smashed and saved. So I didn't do anything to finish the back. So that's the piece.
Wow. Great.
Piece that I put in. Yeah, and inside, my favorite part of this is there's a line on the underside of the top around there, a pencil line that clearly the person who carved the inside the top had just drawn the pencil line, like, I'm going to carve up to that. And I really like that line.
Wow.
Because there's somebody in Kalamazoo, Michigan in 1936 who had a job. I mean, that was pretty unusual, and that was there. I just love that. So, but anyway, so the guy said, I said to him, do you know what it is? And he goes, yeah. He said, do you want to buy it? And I'm like, I'll see what money I've got kicking around. And I fossicked around the workshop, and I found $175. That's all I had. And he goes, oh yeah, okay. And I said, you sure? And he's like, yeah. He said, what can I do with it? So there you go. But I cannot take flat tops seriously now. This is something special. Yeah.
How's that, Andrew? How's that, Andrew?
That's amazing. That's amazing. Got a couple of questions here for you, Glenn. Another one from Will saying, what's your highest roaring pickup? Picture a George Lynch high output. Thanks.
Right. Attitude. The attitude.
The attitude? Okay, so I'm going to pull that up then.
That's going to change very soon. because there's a new pickup that's going to be out in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, I've done a signature pickup for Alien Weaponry.
Oh, yeah.
The band Alien Weaponry. Yeah. So I've done a lot of work with them a lot. Gone back and forth to their place a lot. They've just home now from tour. They've just done a European tour, and they use my pickups on that tour. So they've been tested really well, and so in the next few weeks, and it's quite a different looking pickup too. We put quite a lot into the look and the design of it. So there, that's for that kind of band. That's like an extreme metal pickup. So not necessarily the George Lynch style lead guitarist pickup. That would be the Attitude. But for your kind of, the guys that don't play guitar solos, that sort of guys, that's what the new one will be for.
So the Attitude is what magnets in that, and what's it kind of based off? Is that kind of like a JB type thing? What kind of magnets in it?
A5. It's the one we talked about earlier on. That was the 7-string.
Oh, okay, so
7-string and a 6-string. Yeah.
The Nico 5.
Yeah, and it's 18K ohms.
Nice. It's a sweet spot. Can you talk about the new one that's coming out in 2 weeks, or do you want to? Are you happy to talk about it now?
I'm just not going to show you it because it does look quite different. I'm really happy with the look of it. I work with them a lot with that, and they designed that. And I've had all sorts of parts made.
Is that new one? Is that in a Nico 5?
No, ceramic.
Yep.
And so there's a couple of big ceramic magnets in there. And part of the remit was for it to sound like the last album, because I have to go out and play that album, of course.
Yeah, the Attitude. That's correct. Hey, Andrew.
Yeah, Attitude.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and it depends on what kind of music you're into with the Attitude, whether you watch Graham demonstrating it, the guy with the beard, or Gabe, who's a young cool dude. But they play quite different styles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would the Attitude do a high 80s rock quite well?
I would go for Cloud9 for 80s rock.
Okay.
Definitely. It's got a much more kind of Randy Rhoads mid-range to it.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And it's got heaps of power, but it's it does a pretty good Van Halen as well, actually.
Ooh, okay. So if we were going to do a little bit of jonesing on the Van Halen, you'd also suggest that for the ear?
Definitely Cloud9 for that. Yeah. Again, it's all in the mids, isn't it? Like 80s sound was the mids were so distinctive.
And a lot of that that high 80s kind of rock, there is a lot of mids in there. We think it's a lot of like gain and stuff going on, but when you really listen to it, it's a bit more clean and a lot more body and mids for a lot of that stuff with chorus.
It didn't really get scooped till the 90s, when EMG started ruling.
What would you suggest for a man who loves, say, the Beano album?
Integrity, the PAF type. I mean, that's what he was using. Was it 335 with PAFs in?
Was it Beano? He was on his Les Paul, right, Andrew? Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Les Paul.
Was it?
Yep.
Sorry, stand corrected.
Right.
So yeah, it would have been. I mean, what year was that? They were only.
66? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
66. So he'd have been using a late 50s probably Les Paul then, and there were only PAFs then.
Yeah, he was using
P90s.
A 60. There's some argument whether it was a 59 or a 60, but just the standard PAF. Nothing. No voodoo on that.
Just the covers taken off, right?
Yeah, that was about it. The voodoo was in Peter Green's front pickup, his neck pickup.
Yeah, that's just out of phase, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, it's a usable set.
So these Glyn's YouTube video. Sorry, I'll start again, ladies and gentlemen. That's Glyn's YouTube site there too. And like I said to you guys before, we'll attach all these links on this video if you want to go and see what Glyn's doing.
There's a few other, there's not just demos on my YouTube. I've got a few things of me like explaining how certain aspects of pickups work.
Cool.
Like talking about my 2E Strat pickup and why there's a metal base plate. And basically when I was planning that, I thought, this is a middle-aged bloke talking about physics. There can be nothing more dull than that. So I went down the beach, basically, and took the dogs down the beach.
I watched that video, and it was anything but boring. It was actually awesome.
It's because there's dogs causing chaos.
No, it was the words coming out of your mouth.
Oh. But that was fun. That was fun, and I should make a few more of those. I might make them in here rather than down the beach. But yeah. So
what we'll do is we'll attach Glyn's his channel to our channels page as well. So let's have a review of Glyn's YouTube. So he doesn't use his channels page.
I don't.
He's
What's
got playlists.
What's the channels page?
Okay, so what on your channels page you can add other channels that you want people to go and subscribe to, or friends, or some of the people that you might want to feature. I'll show you.
Yeah, please.
So if we go here to let's pick. Hold on, give me a second.
Because the thing with social media is, of course, there's Facebook and there's Instagram and there's YouTube and there's the website to maintain, and I've got to make pickups. So I spread. I'm spread a little thin, you know.
So just hold on. So
I can give you a good Kiss bootlegging YouTube channel if you want that.
So that's our channel there. And it's so obviously it's got our description there with some keywords in here which aren't hashtagged as well, because YouTube, Glyn, don't like hashtags, a lot of hashtags. So just throw some keywords in here on your description, and that's just going to help on your search. And there's the channels there. So these are all the people that subscribe to us or have been on our show. And we ask people, every time we do a show, Glyn, we ask people to go and subscribe to all our friends. So we'll add your channel here as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll get onto that and get you in there. And I'll put a link to your YouTube on my website as well. Hopefully Google will like that. Yeah.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Hugh in the chat asked, do you make Jaguar pickups?
I do. Yeah. I've got like your standard sort of vintagey Jaguar pickup, but it's not on the website yet. There's a few pickups I've got that aren't on the website, actually. There are going to be 2 flavors of Jaguar. So one is going to be like your vintage one, and one's going to be an angrier version. Quite similar to my 2E Strat pickup is the more angry version. But also there's 2 Jazz Masters. Only one of them's made it to the site so far.
Wow.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of pickups in the pipeline. It's just a case of having them finished. You know, there's like a 3rd Strat pickup that's going to be a more powerful one called a Kahoo. There's going to be a telly pickup in between my Silver Lady and the Cruel Mistress, which hasn't got a name yet. There's another telly pickup that was for the Esquire players.
Oh yeah.
Where you've got, because the 3-position switch on those is useless, isn't it? Really, let's face it. So it's going to be on one position. It'll be my Cruel Mistress kind of hot telly pickup. The next position will be tapping a load of windings off, and it'll be the one which has no name so far, and then the 3rd will be like a gold foil.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's I haven't quite got a name for that yet either. Names are hard.
You mentioned before. Oh, we could fly some. We were mentioning before. You said about your Strat pickups and having a metal base plate. Can you elaborate more and tell us what?
Yeah, does a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite cool actually. It increases the inductance in the coil, so it just gives a little bit. I think mine measured to be like 7% more inductance, so power. Also, what it does is if you think of the magnetic field. So if we're looking aimed onto a Strat pickup and we've got that shape, you know, the bar magnet in the middle, and that's your shape. Yeah, you put a steel plate under there, and the bottom part of that, it pushes that up and out the sides. So what it does with a Strat, the magnetic window is really small. It only hears a very small portion of string, and it makes it hear a little bit more string. So one of the reasons a Strat can be quite pingy compared to a humbucker is because it's only hearing a little bit of string. You know what I mean? So if you widen that a little bit, then you just get a bit more fullness, and with a bit more inductance in the coil, and the coil's a little bit hotter, it adds a little. What it feels like it does is take a little ping off the top and add a bit more oomph underneath.
So interesting.
Yeah. So it sounds. I mean, the way I describe it to people is it's less Knopfler and more Stevie Ray.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then there's going to be a third Strat pickup because there's the Bellbird and then which is the vintage one, then the Tui, and then there's going to be the Kahoo, which is actually pretty much going to be my Cruel Mistress Tele pickup, but in a Strat set.
And anyone who's not in New Zealand will know they are native New Zealand birds.
Correct.
Yeah. Just in case you're in Canada or Japan, California.
Yeah. They're not beer brands, ladies and gentlemen. They are bird brands.
Actually, one of them is, yeah.
Right. So is it true like a Strat, like the single coil pickup is actually quite a strong magnetic pull, right?
Thanks,
in its own little universe?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, because you've got these bar magnets, it's got a stronger magnetic pull than a humbucker. Because a humbucker, you've got one coil is north and the other coil is south. So they kind of oppose each other to an extent. So there's a little bit less magnetic pull. So what happens is if you get a Strat pickup too close to the strings, when you play on the bass strings high up, so let's say you had a clean sound and you're playing 15th fret on the bass string, I'm not sure why you would, but let's say you were, you get a funny wobbly sound. So you get a, rather than it going doing, it goes blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you've got to make up your own vocabulary sometimes, eh? And that's because you've got the magnet and you've got the string, and the string is trying to do that. And as the string gets close to the magnet sucks it in and it releases it. And so it changes the way it vibrates. Now, when I used to set Strats up, you kind of, there's a point where that's going to happen. If you get up to around 20th fret, it's kind of inevitable. But unless the pickup's a long way away. But right. you got to think. Well, is this player going to play up there?
Right.
So you kind of, there's no right or wrong. You've just got to kind of work out what works for you. But yeah, it's called a wolf tone, or it's called stratitis. Yeah. But that's what that is. That's what's actually happening. So yeah, just muck. I think with pickup height, I think the whole thing is just muck about.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting that you should say that. So there's no science to the pickup height. It's about grabbing the screwdriver and fiddling with it, and just maybe fiddling that height and getting something close to what sounds nice to your ear.
Yeah, I mean, you can add science, but at the end of the day, what does it sound like?
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know people who make pickups and design pickups on the basis of, you know, well, let's have this resonant peak and this many Henrys and this, and at the end, yeah, that's a way of doing it. But and I usually may take all those measurements afterwards. It's
right.
more about just because, oh well, let's learn something, you know, because I'm very into science, but what I'm trying to achieve with pickups is make something that sounds really good.
Okay.
So that's actually what I want. So the end goal is not to achieve a certain resonant peak. The end goal is to achieve something that sounds really good. So nothing wrong with that. It just, yeah, my approach is a bit more traditional, I suppose.
Beautiful. It's like a chef. It's like, instead of measuring the cup, you know, go, it's this much of that and it's this much of that. And
yeah, but I'm taking meticulous notes the whole time.
Sure.
I mean, I've got a notebook that I started in 1995.
Wow.
Of all of the rewinds and
wow.
pickups that I was experimenting with. So if I suddenly get an idea of, oh, maybe I can do this at the pickup, and I can look back and go, oh no, wait a minute, yeah, I tried that 20 years ago and it's crap. So, you know, it's yeah, and you need to do that. You need to document that, because there's experience and intuition, which are both very valid tools, but you do need, you know, if you're making notes, then you can really it helps your intuition, because you found out why stuff's happened. You know, when I did that, this was the result. You know. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So,
Brilliant.
I don't know. I don't know if it's brilliant, but I mean, it's, you know, it's nothing.
Well, this whole
new,
thing's brilliant, and just soaking it in. It's like,
I mean, none of this science wasn't available in 1950. You know, it's like, yeah.
Well, surely some of it was. Surely they can't be flying blind.
No. Sorry, what I meant was it was all available in 1950 or earlier. You know, this is not that complicated, really. But what modern players want is to do lots of different things.
Sure. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, you know, if you look at a guy like John Petrucci, who we all love, you know, the lead guitarist out of Dream Theater, it seems like every 6 months, guys, he's coming out with a new set of pickups from Damasio. You know, the guys, again, and you know, is it what's the word, Chris? Is it a cash grab? Probably, maybe. Good, you know, making music and making money are great things, isn't it? But it's all I'm sure too got to do with the fact that John Petrucci, like Edward Van Halen, is searching, is always, you know, looking for that extra sound, that extra something that he can probably imagine he's hearing.
That's what I thought. It was, you know, he's lucky enough to be able to go, oh, give me a little bit more. I need a lower mid. Yeah.
But why should he have one pickup? It's like having one guitar.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah. Well, yeah, like I say, he's comes out with 6 pickups a year.
Oh well.
I didn't know that.
There must be some.
Okay.
There must be some valid economics behind that, I suppose.
Oh, I wish I could just play the one guitar. I envy people that like find a Strat, or they find the Paul Reed Smith, or whatever they find, and they go, "This is what works for me. Love it. Done."
I can't play one guitar. I've tried.
I wish I could.
Tried.
Same. I love them all. I love them all so much.
So if you had to, though, like, yeah, the Desert Island thing, one guitar, which would it be? Which would it be, both of you?
Easy. I'm a Les Paul. Easy, Les Paul. Like, if I use a Les Paul or, say, an SG, I can do a gig, I can do anything. That's kind of like comfort zone. I'm not going to muck up a gig. I'm not going to... A Les Paul would work. And all my guitars that aren't single coil, that's why you basically want to sound like a Les Paul. They might be a Kramer. They might be a Stratocaster, but if they got humbuckers in them, you want a Les Paul sound. That's me. Andrew.
My Desert Island guitar would be a classic vibe Stratocaster I bought in 2011. I've changed the pickups to just some Tone Rider Texas Alleys. I've relicked it. I don't have it here. It's at work. It cost me $900, and it gives my Fender American-made Stratocasters a run for the money. I just think you can't beat a Strat. That's me. If I had to have one guitar, it'll be a Strat. What about you, Glyn?
Telecaster.
Oh, different.
Yeah.
Guys in the chat, what's your Desert Island guitar?
Yeah.
So a Telecaster, has it always been that for you?
No.
No?
No. Yeah. For a long time. Although I don't play it in the band because it doesn't quite work for that. But no, the Telecasters. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Well, we got another Phil said Strats in the chat. Phil's a Strat man. I wonder if that would work if you got everyone in the world. If Strat would come out on top, is this the gent that would be?
I don't know. Some people just don't like them. You know, I talked to a guy once, and he was saying that for him, the Stratocaster was just some transitional guitar between the Tele and the Jazzmaster.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yay. Yeah.
It's interesting that you guys should be talking about Jazzmasters. I'm a Clapton nut, and I thought I'd seen all the photos of Clapton. Someone sent me a couple of pics of Clapton playing a Jazzmaster when he was in the Yardbirds. Never seen him.
Really?
Never seen him playing. Seen him play the Tally and the Gretsch when he was in the Yardbirds. But, hadn't seen any pics of him before up until, about 6 hours ago of him playing a Jazzmaster.
Was it early Yardbirds or later on? Do you know? Could you tell by the picture?
So he is short. So it'll be early to mid because he had a bit of a crew cut there for a while. So, yeah. If you guys are interested, I'll put those pics on our community page. Glyn, it's been fantastic hanging out with you. We do look forward. Maybe you want to come back and talk about these pickups that you can't show us. Maybe spend a couple of hours with us talking about them with alien weaponry. I'd be grateful if you wanted to do that, and I'm sure Chris would love to join us for that show.
Sure.
Yeah, great. Yeah. No, and yeah. So these pickups, like I say, it's going to be a couple of weeks, but they were due to be ready mid-August, but the pickups are ready. I just wasn't.
So you designed them with him, right? And like backwards and forwards. God, how interesting would it be, like, if we were able to get him on as well with you and actually be able to hear what the collaboration goes like between, the product design to the physical design.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's the first sort of signature thing I've done, and I found it really, really interesting. Because it's not. It's kind of. I sold somebody some pickups probably a couple of years ago, and there'd been lots of emails and a couple of phone calls, and then this guy bought some pickups, which was lovely. And then afterwards he messaged me and said, "Hey, that was like in the 80s when I used to read Guitarist magazine, and there was some rock star went to talk to some factory, and he said it was really cool for me." And I thought about it. I was like, actually, it was the same for me. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's like, oh, isn't this really cool? So especially with like alien weaponry, and it's seeing their recent tour and seeing all the Instagram stuff of them playing live and the mosh pit and stuff. But it's my pickup doing that. It's really exciting, It's great.
If you guys are interested too, if you're watching the replay, I'll attach a couple of links to alien weaponry like Glyn is, they're developing a cult status here with a lot of local musicians and rock and hardcore metal fans. Definitely hardcore, aren't they, Chris?
Sure, definitely, and doing amazingly well overseas.
Yeah,
and, can't ask for better than that.
Mm.
So I was reading the bottom text at the same time.
Yeah, me too. Wolfgang.
Oh, yeah, and the Wolfgang pickups.
Yeah.
So you've obviously had a tickle on Wolfgang pickups.
Yeah,
Because that's a long journey it's a long journey for him to get to there. What's your opinion on those?
Well, they're very different from what I've read about, like Van Halen 1.
Right.
But because they've got a much higher DC resistance than they're more in the JB kind of terrain. So although he still sounded like himself. Well, I really love the necks on those guitars.
Right, because that was apparently quite a big development to get the neck pickup to where he wanted it.
Yeah, no, the neck, the actual, the wooden.
Oh, beg your pardon, bro.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. It just gets out of your way. It's really, fantastic.
Oh, it's definitely
it's interesting that you guys should
guitar.
talk about Wolfgang pickups. I got a 5150 which came standard with the EVH Wolfgang, and I've had a couple of other EVH Wolfgangs, and I just didn't like it on the 5150 Glyn, so I took that out and I put the JB in there, and just sounded completely different. Just sounded exactly how I wanted, how I imagined it should have been in the first place. The best way I can describe the Wolfgang when it was in the 5150 was icy. Was just too icy.
Oh, really?
I wonder if I'm wired at Goosey. Did you look at the wiring? Was it all clean and normal in there?
Oh, mate.
The soldering and the pots and all that stuff?
Bro, I'm just a guitar player.
Oh, same, dude. Same. That's why I take the guitar. I take it to the gate. I just said it shielded, dude. Shield it properly.
I've just learnt basically how to restring a guitar properly, so yeah.
Because I've never heard of the Wolfgang being icy.
No.
And you own other Wolfgang pickups in different guitars, right, Andrew? It's not the only one.
Yeah.
And did it have the same tone but just different body wood and everything? Or do you think that was that pickup, or what do you think was going on?
I just think it was the pickup. It was just the pickup, Yeah, just was the pickup. And obviously, I've had experience with JBs before, and I like the fact that Glyn was talking about the JB earlier, when we got on. It's a great pickup. You just, it's hard to, and if you're modeling anything on a JB kind of pickup, Glyn, as well, you're in reasonably safe territory, aren't you, for a good average pickup?
Yeah. I find the high end a little much on a JB.
Right. Yeah.
For me, but I actually did use one for years. But yeah.
You like a tone zone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, I do. There's lots of great pickups out there, aren't there?
True. Actually, we could talk shop for hours about that. Oh, you like that? You like this pickup? Yeah.
But also, they've got to be. They need to suit the guitar they're in, because that makes a difference. Yeah. You take a pickup out of one guitar, put it in another, and it does sound quite different.
Yeah. True.
Because it's only
the Axis guitar with those tones. Are they tone zones in the Axis? No.
It's that was the thing, wasn't it? When is that the thing when he was designing those pickups, wasn't it? There was two, and he couldn't really choose the two difference. It was that Steve and Toto was like the other guy that his friend sang to him, and Ed said to him, what's his name? Steve
Lukather.
Yeah, he was saying, because apparently he was there a lot and was Ed's friend at the time. And we went into the story, and it was the two. It was that one in the tone zone, and Ed was like, I can't really, I don't know. And Steve said take that one, and the other one became the Tone Zone.
Awesome.
Okay.
Apparently, and so that's what's in those Axis models, like the Music Man,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Yeah. Which, like, I don't know because I haven't been lucky enough to play an actual Music Man of those. Have either of you guys played that humbucker before?
Well, I just have the Axis, so I've never played a proper EVH Music Man. No.
So you have, Glyn?
I have, but not really in anger.
Okay.
I've worked on those guitars, but you're just testing through a little
Right.
rather than yeah. So I haven't really got an opinion.
Does Brad have one of those? Is he still around?
Yeah, he's
Brad's
got one.
still there?
So, ladies and gentlemen, Brad's just made a good little point there about the channel having 6,500 subscribers. So, thank you guys for subscribing to our channel. And Hugh's made a little comment there about our channel as well. I just want to remind you guys too that Hugh's going to jump on and do a show with us end of September. So check that out. And if you guys are in the chat and you want to jump on and do a ranking of the tracks with us, give me a yell, give Brad a yell, or give Simon a yell, and we'll do the best that we can to get you on. Glyn, even if you wanted to come on in future and rank an album with us.
Wow, love to.
Do it.
Love to.
You can pick an album and we all go through and we talk about each track in particular, what we particularly like about it. We normally do a bit of a deep dive on the album as far as, how it came to be, some of the stories behind the album. And then we normally go through and rank the track from 1 to 10. And more often than not, the albums we pick, Glenn and Chris, are pretty good albums, so nothing really gets under a 6 or a 7.
What would you like to do, Glenn? Can you name a couple of albums that you'd love to do that with?
Oh, no. Gosh, it's putting a guy on the spot, isn't it? You know what?
I can tell you what. I'll tell you what album you should pick. It's easy. You mentioned it.
High Voltage.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I think I'd rather an album I don't know.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It'd be really nice to really have a proper listen and to something different. I mean, I know High Voltage inside out, but yeah, it'd be really nice to listen to something, because I'm always trying to find new kinds of music to listen to.
So we'll do a Devo album then.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do then is when one of our co-hosts pick an album or something like that, we'll ask you if you want to come on and do that album with us. That might be the best bet. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say, look, it's been a pleasure hanging out with Chris and Glyn from MrGlyn's Pickups. He's going to come back in a couple of weeks, maybe 4 weeks' time, and hang out on the same day and same time with Chris and I to talk about his new pickup set, because I think that's going to be really interesting, and it'll be a good opportunity, Glyn, for you to talk about it. So we'll do
Thank
that.
you.
We'll make sure that all Glyn's social media links are attached to this video. When you do go and subscribe to Glyn, please, guys, if you're watching on a replay, let him know that the 5150 show sent you, so that he will be grateful.
I will be grateful. Thank you very much. Hey,
no problem.
It's been a great chat. Really nice to meet you, Andrew and Chris. Great seeing you again. Really cool.
Same. Likewise to you, buddy.
Yeah.
Likewise.
We've always had really good long chats about all sorts of rubbish. Brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, hanging out at your workshop was always, every second was awesome. Blessing.
Always
standing around
fun.
and looking and just talking to you about anything. Of course.
Awesome. I'm going to do a quick shout out to the people that were hanging out with us live. Brad Cook, our brother in arms, all the way from Australia, one of the co-hosts of the channel. Good to see you, bro. Robert Ranford, a good friend of the channel. Thank you for jumping in. John ZD351, Hugh Caldwell, who's going to join us, ranking Band of Gypsies. Can't wait for that. That's going to be a cracker. This was a new name in the chat, James and Rexana Tracy. Thank you for joining us. Nice comments. Please subscribe to our channel, James, if you haven't, and we'll sub back to you. We had the Rock Professor in the chat earlier. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Tim Thomas, another good friend of the channel. Thank you, brother. You are awesome. And who else did we have? I think we had Phil. We got Phil from Christchurch, another fellow Kiwi. Good to see you, brother. Will Vieira, awesome. Thank you for hanging out with us. I'm going to ask Chris to say a couple of quick things, and then we'll give the final word to Mr. Glynn.
I don't have quick things. We'll be here all night long talking about it. Like, as Brad said in the comments, that apparently the Music Man and Access have the same pickup in it. So if you're going to give some words to me, we'll be here all night long, because I'll be going to you, Andrew, going, oh, so, you know, it's the same pickup in the Music Man as in the Access. So how do you find the difference between that and the Wolfgang? I'll be writing my own book. Uh-huh. Don't ask me. I'm having a good time. I'll keep you guys here all night long. Okay, Glenn, can you give me, why not? Give me, for no reason and no order and no reason whatsoever, give me 5 of your favorite albums. They don't have to be your all-time favorite. Just give me 5. Pick 5 albums you like for no reason.
Okay. You Are What You Is, Frank Zappa. Are You Experienced, Hendrix. Power Ridge. How many do you want? 5.
Oh, you can keep going, mate. Keep going. That's only been 2.
Okay. Number of the Beast.
Ooh.
I know, you didn't expect that, did you?
Hey, come on.
2
more.
Two more. What was the first album he did with
Blizzard
on his own? Blizzard, thank you.
Yeah.
Blizzard of Oz. And Van Halen 1.
Hey?
Van Halen 1.
Oh,
awesome.
Sure.
Hmm.
You put
Good
Blizzard
selection.
in there. Very tasteful. Very tasteful.
Awesome. That's your last word, Glenn, is it?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Lovely.
We'll see you
Thank
guys
you for
later.
joining us.
Cheers.
No problem.
Cheers, guys.